uma música?
Tem. Boa noite, pessoal. Aqui é o Hamilton, do Parque Tecnológico de São José dos Campos. Espero que sejam todos bem. Hoje a gente vai conversar um pouquinho sobre o Programa Colmeia, é uma ação do Programa Colmeia. E só um detalhe. Ok. Hoje nós teremos uma ação do Programa Colmeia com a Universidade de Queensland, na Austrália. Essa ação vai acontecer com a Masterclass do professor Peter. Desculpa que eu estou com retorno no meu fone, então eu estou falando um pouquinho devagar. E nós vamos começar um pouquinho aqui em português, né? Apenas uma breve apresentação. Eu vou transferir daqui a pouquinho para a Renata. A Renata é representante da USQ na América do Sul. Após a breve introdução sobre a USQ, nós teremos a Masterclass em inglês, né? Com o professor Peter Murray. Ok? Obrigado, pessoal. Renata, fique à vontade.
Obrigada, Milton. Muito obrigada. Obrigada pela organização dessa Masterclass com o professor Peter. É um prazer estar aqui participando junto com o Parque Tecnológico de São José dos Campos. E, bom, eu sou a Renata Balaguer e eu sou a representante na América Latina da University of Southern Queensland, ou USQ. Bom, a nossa universidade ela está localizada no noroeste de Queensland, o estado de Queensland que está na Austrália. A gente tem três campi espalhados no estado de Queensland, em 3 cidades diferentes, né? Em Toowoomba, em Springfield e Ipswich. A gente oferece na USQ mais de 100 programas em todos os níveis de ensino, né? Temos graduação, pós-graduação, mestrado e pesquisa. Os nossos programas, eles são oferecidos tanto presencialmente quanto online, de acordo com as necessidades do estudante. Bom, hoje a gente tem aqui a presença do professor Peter Murray, que foi idealizador do mestrado que oferece na USQ, que se chama Master of Adaptative Leadership, um mestrado 100% online, e hoje o professor Peter vai estar falando uma pequena introdução desse mestrado, ensinando a gente a compreender a mente do líder. Então, now I'm going to switch to English, and I would like to welcome Professor Peter Murray, and I hope you all enjoy the presentation. And welcome, Professor Peter. Pleasure to have you here.
Yes, hello to everyone. We're just opening up the presentation again, and we just had a few technology issues, so just bear with me for a minute while we solve those issues. But it's lovely to welcome you all this morning to the Masterclass. Now, I'll just ask the hosts, Renata and Hamilton, can you see those slides at all?
Yes, we do.
Okay, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn a slideshow on, and we'll go from the beginning. And welcome again. It's terrific this is the third masterclass in a series of masterclasses I've given for our South American colleagues. So welcome this morning to this masterclass. And this masterclass is about understanding the leader's mind, all right? And it's part of the program we run here at the university called the Master of Adaptive Leadership, all right? And it also, this particular course, it's called The Leader's Mind, is the name of the course. It's also part of the graduate certificate in leadership and coaching, which is also embedded within the Master of Adaptive Leadership. So this morning I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe a little bit longer, and giving you guys a little bit of understanding about the leader's mind, understanding the leader's mind. All right, so let's go down to what the objectives of the masterclass is really to kind of learn why a leader is unaware of their, and why as a leader they become distracted. Why do leaders become distracted? Why do they lose focus? Becomes the key point. And also then, as a result of losing focus, being unaware of their surroundings, because as some of the things I'll explain this morning, they become ineffective. So what we're going to do is talk about some of the experiences of the leader in being able to manage their mind and understand their mind. And what we're also going to do is develop some strategies to help leaders and help you guys, if you're leaders, or maybe you're an emerging leader, how you can become more focused, more what we call meta-aware, is becoming aware of all the world around us, which I'll talk about as well, and therefore more efficient and mindful. So they are the two objectives of the masterclass today. Let's move down to the next slide. All right, so welcome to your mind. And our mind essentially is how our brain controls our thoughts, feelings, and emotions and everything we do, all right? Because of the things we've learned, the knowledge that has been embedded, and so forth. But here's the thing. We don't control our mind. We don't control our mind. Our mind controls us. And I'll explain that. And that's because we're not rational. We're not rational. We don't think rationally because of the way our mind is organised, the way our brain is organised. We don't often perceive, but we perceive things as we are, or you perceive things as you are, because all of the knowledge, all of the things you've learned as you were growing up or as you've arrived at this point in your life, those knowledge points and all that knowledge, it sits in your brain and that dictates how you think. All right? So we're going to try and understand that a little bit in today's masterclass. And the other thing, I really love this next little line here, is that we are not our thoughts. You are not your thoughts, because our thoughts come and go, right? Just because we think something, or we're sad, or we're depressed, or we're down, or we're feeling happy, it doesn't mean to say we're always a happy person. It doesn't mean to say we are always sad, or it doesn't mean to say we are always depressed, because thoughts come and go. And I want you guys to think about this morning how your mind, how your brain is like a giant cupboard, all right? Think of your brain just as a metaphor, as a way of describing your brain as a giant cupboard. And inside the cupboard, as you know, at home, you store things. You store clothes, you store coat hangers, you store bits of knowledge. And all of those things that are hanging inside your brain in your cupboards of knowledge are literally dictates how you think and act, right? And unfortunately, well, it can be fortunate and unfortunate. We obviously learn good things and we rely on all of that good knowledge and expertise that we've learned and knowledge that we've learned to help us in our day-to-day work and our day-to-day decision-making. But sometimes also the things we have learned that are stored in the cupboards of our brain get in the way of us being effective, because we can become dogmatic about something. We're not rational, as I said before, and often we act on autopilot, right? Think of an aeroplane. The pilot sitting in the sky presses a button and the plane automatically flies. And sometimes we're like that because we're not rational and we don't control our mind. And often as leaders, we're on autopilot when really we should be taking control of the day-to-day decisions, and we need to be more effective and aware of how our brain influences those day-to-day decisions. So let's keep going down here. So As I said here, your brain is not your mind. It is the essence of being ourselves, though. It's really the totality of your experience of being you, isn't it? Because you've learned things cognitively, which is how you store things in your brain, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And all of these different kinds of emotions and experiences and physical experiences and spiritual experiences affect how we think. All right, because as you can see there, you have the left brain. We can be logical, sequential, analytical, and objective, but on the right brain, we also need to be intuitive, holistic, synthesizing, and all these kind of ways of thinking about how we can tap into right brain thinking, because it's easy to model our brain to act as leaders on left brain thinking because we're logical, we're sequential, we're analytical, and so on. And sometimes that can force us not to be aware and be focused on how to think intuitively and more subjectively. So the thing about our brain is that it's continually changing. The good news for us as leaders is that we have what we call neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity is the capacity for us as leaders to reorganize, retrain, and regenerate the knowledge that sits in our brain. That makes sense? So remember I said we have all these storehouses of knowledge and sitting in our brain, and we pull off that knowledge every time we need to make a decision, and that knowledge tends to guide our decision making. But sometimes we may not be happy with those decisions. Sometimes we may not be happy with the result of the knowledge we had. So therefore, as leaders, we need to change that knowledge. We need to take that old coat hanger out, put on a new garment or a new shirt, and put it back in our coat hanger, okay? So we can renew and remodel and reorganize our brain, which is what neuroplasticity means, right? That's the good news. So let's talk about, now we're going to try and do I've just got one more slide, and then we'll go to an exercise, and if we can get the technology to work, that'd be really great, and I'll get you guys to do something in a minute. And the thing that I was talking about here, the reason why we need this neuroplasticity, this idea of continually changing and reorganizing and renewing our brain, is because of all of these distraction points that sit here in our brain, all these little blue points here. Right through our brain, we can be easily distracted because we have distraction points. We're distracted by emails. We're distracted by what someone's saying. We're distracted by 24-hour news. We're distracted by our mobile phones. We're distracted by music. There's so many different things that distract us from being able to focus as a leader, right? But the front part of our brain, which is this part here, that's called the prefrontal cortex, right up here, the front of our brain. And that's where what we call the executive decision-making occurs in our brain. This is where, this part of the brain where we can make instant decisions, right? And unfortunately, sometimes these cupboards of knowledge that sit in the back part of our brain, back down in here in the limbic system, back down this part of the brain, they cause us in the executive part here, in the front part of our brain, they cause us to make the wrong decision. And that's because we haven't trained our executive decision-making part of our brain to be more mindful of the knowledge that sits in those coat hangers. So the knowledge is represented by emotions, thoughts, feelings, knowledge, insights, and those things that sit on those cupboards can get in the way of this part of our brain here in making a really effective decision in what I like to call it, and what we often see in the psychology literature is a term called in the hot action of practice. You're making a decision as a leader in the hot action of practice. That means you'll make an instant decision. And if someone says something to you that you don't like, you can make an instant decision and you might regret that because you weren't mindful in this prefrontal cortex part of your brain of how this knowledge that sits in these coat hangers in the cupboards of your brain, you weren't really cognizant, you weren't really aware enough, what I call meta-aware, of how all of these bits of knowledge get in the way, interfere with you being able to make a really excellent decision in the hot action of practice. Right? So there's a fair bit there. And I'm just sort of giving you a bit of a window, if you like, into the course called The Leader's Mind. So today is just about understanding the leader's mind. And so we're just talking about now, in particular, making of awareness and how we can become more aware or meta-aware as a leader. And unfortunately, because of all these things here and these distraction points in our brain, and if we continually make poor decisions as a leader, then often we can be perceived as being disinterested or apathetic, arrogant, aloof. I'll give you an example. Now, I had someone in my office here yesterday talking, and he was standing there and he was talking to me, and I was really busy working on something here in my job. And my mind, I was very friendly and generous with my time, but I found myself my mind wandering to what I was doing here in the moment. And then I realized, because of my training in the leader's mind, I realized, hang on a second, I'm losing focus. So then I was able to look at that person in the eyes, really focus on what they were saying, try to understand their perspective, and then I was able to respond. So I'm going to actually stop sharing in a minute, and I'm going to go back to I'm sort of trying to understand this technology. Now, have I stopped sharing there, guys, or can you still see my
We can still see.
Oh, you can still see my presentation?
Yes.
All right. So I'm just trying to figure out how to stop sharing this. Now, just a second. So I'll tell you what, I won't go out of the screen because I'm not too familiar with the Google Meet. So what I'd like you to do at home, let's just go back to the presentation. And what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to practice awareness.
Okay.
All right. I'd like you to practice awareness. Can you hear me, Hamilton? You can hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And what I'd like you to do, this is just a practice. And whether you're watching this at home on Google or YouTube or something else, then I'd like you to practice this just for 1 minute. And what I'd like you to do in a minute, when I tell you to start, I'd like you to close your eyes for 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'd like you to listen to everything occurring around you, including the noise, the weather, your office, and I'd like you to become aware of your thoughts, emotions, feelings, and anxieties, right? So I want you to become aware in that 1 minute. We'll start in a moment. I want you to become aware of everything that surrounds you, all the noise, the weather, your office, anything's happening around you. But I also want you to be aware of your thoughts, emotions, feelings, and anxieties, okay? And then what I'd like you to do, we'll see if we can practice using the technology. If not, then maybe Hamilton or Renata, who's organising today, can feedback some of those comments. too. So starting from now, and I will also do this as well, and we'll start, I want you to close your eyes and we'll start right now, okay? All right, so here we go. Okay, stop there. So I'll just go back into the thing here. Now, I think I can see the turn on captions presenting. Have we got some way? Oh, is that chat with everyone? Is that the function? If you could just, if you're using Google or some other way of communicating with us, can you write down what your is that the chat with everyone function, Hamilton? I'll just try that.
Yeah, it is working. And
okay.
And it's possible for the people to take a look and to take the exercise.
So I'm going to using Google app here. I'm going to write. I can hear the air conditioning. Also, I had thoughts of time. I was conscious of the time, and that was potentially interfering with the presentation, or could be interfering with me as a leader conducting the presentation. What are some other things that people thought of in that minute? Can we get some feedback? If you're using Google, maybe?
Yeah, people are like a bit shy about this. Probably.
It's okay.
Yeah, in my case, I was hearing some kids kicking the ball. They're playing soccer. So here's the ball.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, in my case, it was also the air conditioner, the first one, because it's really loud here.
All right, terrific.
Excuse me, I think someone put in the YouTube, barking dog.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's great. So let's just go back to the masterclass. Can you see this again? All right. So
yeah.
That again. Okay. So that's just a very simple exercise of us becoming aware of our thoughts, feelings, emotions, and also everything that's around us. Now, if we practice as a leader, every time we have a conversation, and I'm going to take a couple more slides in a minute to give you some strategies to do that. Once you start to practice using the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive decision-making part of your brain, you can be more conscious how these thoughts, feelings, emotions, and knowledge that sits in the back part of your brain interferes with you being an effective leader, and you can very easily lose focus, right? That's just an example of awareness. Now I'm going to talk about meta-awareness. And the problem with us as leaders is we have many classic distractions. And it's what we call in the psychology literature, we call it stimulus-independent thought, which is a very simple way of thinking about mind wandering, right? We mind wander to all of these different things. Some mind wandering is good because we need to be creative and we need to be reflective and things like that. But other mind wandering can stop us, can help cause us to lose focus as a leader, right? We might be worried about fear all these things that are happening, a mental, remember I said earlier, we are a collection of all of these things here, cognitively, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and these become classic distractions for us as leaders. And we mind wander too much in places of work, and we can lose focus. And even when someone was talking to you, or someone is talking to you, so for example, I was giving you the example of the person talking to me yesterday, very quickly, because I've been training my mind how to become more focused, having taught this course now for a couple of years, I was able to immediately realize that I was losing focus, and then I had to come back and focus on what this person was saying. And so mind wandering is a problem. We don't want our mind to be full of all of these classic distractions. So rather, as the right-hand slide here says, rather, we want to be mindful, right? Not mindful of stuff that's interfering with us and causing us to be ineffective as a leader, but mindful of everything that's happening around us, and that's called meta-awareness, and also mindfully aware of our thoughts, feelings, emotions that can get in the way of us being effective leaders. All right. So I want to really then focus on this meta-awareness. Just a few more slides and we're just about done. So one thing that I do as a leader, and when I have been a leader, I was a head of school here for a while. Before that, I was a leader in industry. And I know many of you are leaders or emerging leaders, is how to become more aware of these thoughts, past experience, distractions. So we input all of these surroundings, emotions, thoughts, past experience, distractions that come into our brain. They sit in these cupboards of knowledge back here, right? And unfortunately, they often lead to subconscious responses. And that's the autopilot function I was talking about. We often have an autopilot reaction. I'll give you a very quick example. For a number of years here in the city, in Toowoomba City in Queensland, in Australia, I used to drive to work the same way every day. Every day I drive to work, drive to university the same way every day, okay? And I was almost like an autopilot, like a pilot flying a plane. Anyway, one day I said, I might go another way. So the next day, I went this other way to work. Then I thought, oh, this is good. This cut off my trip by 2 minutes. So I thought I might use that tomorrow. So tomorrow came and I got in my car, went off to work, and all of a sudden I found myself going the same old way that I used to go. I was about nearly at the university when I suddenly realised that, I was going to go the other way. And that's because our subconscious mind is powerful and it controls our thoughts, feelings and emotions, and our executive decision-making part of our brain here, often in the wrong way. So what I practice is a 3 to 5 second gap between when I respond to someone and when they ask me a question. So I had someone sitting here yesterday, a PhD student, and we were talking about her research model, and she was telling me something, and I had to stop myself from responding instantly because I may not have been happy with what I said. So if she was talking to me, she asked me something, I'd go 1, 2, 3, and then respond. And it just helps you to check that you're not acting on the basis of a subconscious response, but you're not acting on autopilot, but you're acting, you're being mindful in this slide here, over here. You are being mindful of what this person's saying, being mindful of your response. If you're feeling angry, you say, I don't want to react in anger, so therefore How can I act in a way that's not angry but mindful? Okay. And this is the thing. Thoughts come and go. Thoughts are constantly coming and going in our mind. But just because we're angry doesn't make us an angry person. Or just because we're depressed doesn't make us a depressed person, as I said earlier in the masterclass. So when I'm responding to a person, let's say that person's name is Jane, I'm responding to Jane and I'm saying, and I'm angry with her, if I'm not mindful, I'll say something in the hot action of practice that I'll resent and I'll regret as a leader. It may even cause that person to leave and walk out and slam the door if I'm not careful. But if I'm angry or if I'm happy or sad or depressed or whatever I'm feeling, I need to be conscious of that feeling and that emotion and that thought and that insight that I've just gained. And therefore, I respond to that in the hot action of practice as I'm talking to Jane. All right? Does that make sense? There's a lot there. But it's a fascinating subject, this subject, the leader's mind, as part of the Master of Adaptive Leadership. Let's just quickly go down to the next one. So just that 3-second gap is really the difference between being unaware and meta-aware of stopping the autopilot function between the knowledge that sits in the back part of your brain and what you're going to say in the hot action of practice in the executive decision-making part of your brain. Could be the difference between making a good or bad decision. Could be the difference between engaging or disengaging an employee. That's how important it is. Let's go down to the next one. So here's a couple of little strategies to become meta-aware. First, I'd like you guys to focus being present, centered and aware, what we call present in the moment, so that people feel your presence, being centered on what they're saying, or focused if you like, and aware of your own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and everything else that's happening around you that could be a distraction. Delete the mental chatter that is going on in your brain, which means if you've got too much mental chatter in your brain while someone's talking to you, you're not focusing on that person. Okay? Because your mind is distracted by the things you're thinking about. Listen carefully and become aware of your thoughts. As I said, we're not our thoughts. Just because we're angry doesn't make us an angry person. Because of this process of neuroplasticity, we can change the way we think. We can take out that old cupboard of knowledge that we didn't like and replace it with something new, because that's the power. We've got the power to do that. We can, as I said in this masterclass, we can avoid making decisions based on past knowledge only. And while past knowledge is absolutely critical, isn't it? Because we become experts, we become very good at something, we've learned things, we've learned about social manners, we've learned about how to interact with people, how not to interact with people. All those things are very important, but it's really through neuroplasticity, being prepared to train your brain to think differently and becoming aware of these thoughts, feelings, emotions that get in the way of you being mindful. All right. So here's the thing. Here's a couple of strategies. Comes out of the book by Hugart and Carter, 2018, called The Mind of the Leader by Harvard Business Review. That's quite a good little book. We use the little bits and pieces of it in this course, but we use really a whole lot of readings and videos and all sorts of things to bring out and teach about the leader's mind. But practice increasing what we call increasing your faculties of focus. Your faculties is all the knowledge and all of the different parts of your brain, left brain, right brain, how you could, through neuroplasticity, you can train your knowledge. You can have moment-to-moment prioritizing. You can learn how to have a different way of talking with people. You can become more task procedure. You can become, break a task down into a set of procedures or a set of steps to help you think rationally if you need to, because we're not rational. Okay. Reading and learning helps. the speed by which the more we become mindful as a mindful leader, we become faster at processing decisions because we're aware of this balance between the limbic system, which is the cupboards that sit in our brain, and the prefrontal cortex, which is our capacity to make instant decisions. So we become better at it, and therefore our information processing increases. Our decision-making ability gets better, and we're able to have better interaction with people. All right? All of these different strategies for meta-awareness are important, and I'm sure maybe if the conveners want to share these slides, I'm happy to share them with anyone who would like them. Let's go down to the next one. And this one is what we call reflection on action. So the first one is cognitive reappraisal, and then the second one is perspective taking. So as a leader, we often make decisions and say things that we resent in the hot action of practice. You know, if we're in a meeting, a team meeting, or we're having a one-on-one conversation with a staff member, and then when that staff member leaves or when the team meeting ends, an hour later or the next day, you reflect on those conversations and you're not happy with them, right? You're not happy with the events that unfolded because you felt that there was a problem with how you focused and you dealt with the awareness of that interaction. You weren't effective in solving problems or making decisions in the hot action of practice. You lost focus as a leader, right? So cognitive reappraisal is really being aware of those knowledge and how your existing knowledge got in the way of you making a more effective decision, or got in the way of you saying things that were more effective, which might have led to a better outcome with the team or that person. So one way to do it is simply write down some things on a piece of paper. So I have a piece of paper, I hope you can see that there, and I might write down those things on a piece of paper. There's 4 things, and I might number them, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I say, well, there's 4 things, as I reflect those conversations, there was 4 things that I did and said that and at least one of these I wasn't happy with. It was let's say it was the third point. The third point I wasn't happy with. When I was reflecting on that conversation, I decided that number 3 was where I went wrong. And number 3 caused me to act in a way that caused me to lose focus. So you practice mindfulness in your office or wherever you are, and you say, righto, if I had to reorder those events, how would I reorder them? And what other things would substitute for number 3? What things could I say that would be better next time if I had exactly the same conversation, or I had the same team meeting where I was trying to solve a problem in a group? What things could you replace? Okay, and that's called cognitive reappraisal. So you're cognitively saying, next time I have that conversation with Renata, I'm going to change point number 3, and I'm going to not become angry. I'm going to listen to her points, and I'm going to respond very carefully, being aware of that I'm angry or being aware that I'm emotional, and I'm not going to do that next time. Okay. The other one is perspective taking. We're nearly done. Guys. I think we're going pretty well for time. We started a bit late. But the other one is putting yourself in someone else's shoes, which is a combination of empathy with compassion, right? So if you see that someone's having a tough time, so there's a colleague here at work at the moment who's having a tough time with, a personal issue, all right? And I'm found myself just recently putting myself in that person's shoes, trying to imagine what it would be like to go through this situation. So as a leader, perspective taking helps us to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, and therefore that changes the neurological patterns in our brain and helps us to respond in the hot action of practice much more carefully and becoming more meta-aware of this person, all right, and that person's needs. So there's a couple of strategies, just three strategies which you can practice at home. So we started off this masterclass understanding the leader's mind, and I've talked about a couple of different strategies. I've talked about being meta-aware, and I've talked about losing focus and the different parts of how the knowledge parts of our brain interact with the front part of our brain. So really, all we've just done today is talk about why the leader becomes unaware and loses focus, and also we've developed some strategies to maybe look at that. So perhaps you might that might have prompted you to say, well, what have I learned today? And would that that response help you to say, well, look, I might consider the university as an option for me going forward. Now, Renata or Hamilton, can you see this slide? Or not?
Not yet.
Okay, so let me just...
I think you stopped sharing your screen.
Hang on a second. So let me see if I can just... I've got another slide about the Master of Adaptive Leadership. If I can just kind of work out how to stop sharing the screen. Stop sharing. I'm not sure how to... we don't normally use this particular site. So look, what I'm going to do instead is talk about what the Master of Adaptive Leadership is, and I had this. Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
Not yet. You can present now. Go back to present now.
Oh, okay, righto. Yep. So just bear with me for a moment.
No problem.
Yeah.
Let's go back again. Now, I've I'm not quite sure. We're having a few, sorry about this, guys, we're having a few technology issues, but let me just instead tell you a little bit about the Master of Adaptive Leadership. It's a really fantastic course, and I can share some information via Zoom or via the email. It's a 16-course program. Today I've just talked about the leader's mind as part of that 16-course program, and that's actually a program called the Leader's Mind, a subject called the Leader's Mind. Okay, students love it. Students love this course. It's one of the most popular courses in the program. And so the first 4 courses is a graduate certificate in leadership and coaching, and you can see why the leader's mind becomes very important in that. And then we have 12 other courses that you can do, from leadership development, leading organisation change, all of the important aspects that the modern leader needs to become effective in their workplace. And you can enter, if you have a business degree, you can come straight into these 16-course program, or if you don't have a business degree, you could enter into the graduate certificate of leadership and coaching just with 2 or 3 years experience, work experience, and we can get you into the master's program that way, because the graduate certificate of leadership and coaching is the first 4 courses of the 16-course program. So you'll be able to see all this online. Renata, you would be able to share through Hamilton the program, and how, if anyone's interested in this, I think we have a number of people online there. So love to talk with you and love to be able to share the interest in Master of Adaptive Leadership. So that's all from me. I'll hand back to the hosts. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the technology problems. I haven't used Google Meet before, so I just wasn't quite sure the intricacies of trying to understand that program. But thank you very much for listening. I hope to see you enrolled in one of our courses and programs, and look forward. And good evening. Thank you very much. Renato, Hamilton, back to you.
Yeah. Renata, if you have something to say, and after I'll have some questions for Professor Peter about this masterclass so far. But firstly, I would like to already thank you. To say that we enjoyed it. I'm sorry I'm speaking a little bit with different difficulties because of the return we have in the sound here. I'll just take it out a little bit. And now it's better. Thank you, Professor, for the masterclass. We'll have some questions probably at the YouTube panel. Just take a look here because we have the screen right here on my right. And I'm just to take a look if they have some questions, but we also have some internal questions for you. But Renata, would like to say something before?
Yeah, I mean,
we can't hear you, Renata.
Oh,
sorry, sorry. So while you're looking at the questions from the participants, I just want to remind that this Master's degree, Master's of Adaptive Leadership, is a 100% online master's degree.
Yes.
It's a 2-year program, and just to make it totally online. It's a pre-recorded, it's going to be recorded at all the classes, and the students can access the classes 24/7. So, yeah. And if anyone needs any other information, I'm here. I'm based in the campus. I live here as well. And I can assist with any inquiries the participants might have.
Great. And it's good for people to know it because nowadays it's more than common because we need it, right? Online knowledge because we're not able to have this normal situations to know, to learn, right? We need to change it. Tech Park as well is trying to implement this during this Programa Colmeia, we call it here. Because we're trying to integrate some universities with the companies, the institutions here, because also it's hard. It's a hard moment for everybody in every country in the world, we know. And this is like a way for people to analyze it a little better, to understand a little bit more what they are capable of. And this brings me to the question that I will have to Professor Murray, because like you said, this is one of the most popular courses at USQ, right? And people that come to these courses or come here today to speak with us, they're like already know that some of the leadership or some of this unawareness that they need, this need to improve, it's already there. But it's hard. But the first step would be like to recognize that we're not so rational as we think, that we need to think a little bit better about the situations that we pass through, even if we succeeded, right? This is like a challenge even for the ones that comes to the course, right? But also to spread the word, as a matter of speak, because most people don't realize that they don't make irrational decisions all the time, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's because we're not rational. We're not rational, and because our mind controls the things we do. And so it's becoming more aware of those thoughts, feelings, emotions, insights, bits of knowledge that sit on those coat hangers I talked about, get in the way, interfere with us as leaders. So, conscious of all of those thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and bits of knowledge that cause you to act on an autopilot. That's the problem.
Yes, and with these courses, we have the tools. We're trying to learn the tools to be more aware of these, right? But at the same time, I believe that's like a step-by-step situations, because you need to, as you mentioned, write it down, to analyze it, to do different, to do it better next time, to improve it. As we're talking about these difficulties we're having right now because of the technology, because of we're not face to face. We have this the humans are like social beings, right? We have this difficulty to be so far apart. Some of these things we can improve, and some of them we need to learn how to do it better, right? So not only for the leader, I believe, but this is my question, also one more question, not only for the leaders, but it's more about the tasks we're facing, right? Every individual, even if they're not in a leadership position, they may benefit for this, right?
Absolutely. And I've just practiced the 3-second gap with you now. Okay.
Okay.
So that's something you can practice straight away, all of you, to have a 3. Sometimes I'll use 5 seconds. Sometimes a person's looking at me and they're going, oh, maybe did I say something wrong? You can sort of, but I'm actually trying to think that I especially have a longer response. It's something to me that is a little bit incorrect, or, you know, offensive, or they criticize someone, or they've said something that doesn't quite sit right with me. I'll have a longer response because I'm thinking, hang on a second, I'm angry, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling happy maybe, or whatever I'm feeling. I just need to be conscious of what that feeling is. So then I respond in a way effective. Yeah. So that's just a very simple one. Yeah. So that's correct what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes. I just took a look at the YouTube. We don't have any questions for now. More questions. If they have, they will have the connection, right, with the program. And this masterclass will be available at the Tech Park page, YouTube channel. And then they can take a look back and go a little bit more like if they had some troubles with the internet, or newcomers that may take a look of your class. So thank you again, Professor Murray. We really appreciate this masterclass. And this will be like, we hope that people will come and take a look at this, not only on this live, but after also.
My pleasure. And just quickly signing off, what time is it in where you are, Hamilton? What time is it in?
8 p.m. 8 p.m.
8 p.m. in the evening. So this is the time where we now go and have a glass of wine, maybe Australian wine, or maybe Australian champagne. Or what is your favourite drink over there? What is your favourite drink in the evening in America?
I'm a different person. It's like I'm not kind of boring, because I'm the guy that only drinks water all the time. But I'm not the model for this.
Right.
But wine is really good. Wine is really good also.
And especially Australian wine, they are really good. But
this would be first for me.
Beer, wine, champagne, all kinds of drinks.
Yes,
but I would say that Australian wines are really good.
All right.
I never tasted.
Okay, so whatever you're going to be doing tonight, I hope you have a pleasant evening. Thank you very much for watching a little bit about the Understanding the Leader's Mind, and of course here at the University of Southern Queensland. Wonderful to talk to you tonight, and look forward to seeing you some other time. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Peter. We had like a round of master classes here in Latin America, and I would like to thank you for participating. And also, I want to wish everyone Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, because we are at the end of the year. We survived 2020.
Yeah.
I hope we connect next year again.
Thank you all for joining. We are finishing this class. We hope you enjoyed it, and you can take a look back if you want to. This live will be open at the PqTec Park channel on YouTube. So this is the last event we have for this Programa Colmeia, the integration of university and companies here at Tech Park for this year, right? And next year we'll come with more possibilities for you guys. We hope you guys enjoy, keep working this. We know that's not a easy time for everybody, but we're working to get this 2021 really better than it was 2020 for all of us, right? So see you guys. Be safe, right?
Okay.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.